Welcome to Crazy Cool Crochet. This is Sylvia, and today we are working up this gorgeous crochet easy ribbed sweater with button sleeves. This is a very simple design and simple pattern that is great even for crochet beginners. It uses the simplest of stitches, and even the buttons, which are used as an embellishment along the sleeves, are really easy to work up. If you have seen my other projects where I used crochet buttons, those buttons were quite large, but on this design we're going with much smaller buttons. 4 straight panels, the front panel, the back panel, and the 2 sleeves. No increasing, no decreasing. It really doesn't get much easier than this. For this design I'm using a number 4 yarn. This one happens to be Yarn Bee Soft Secret in Violet, and this gives you a little bit of a sheen which makes the sweater even more special. And this drapes beautifully. It's nice and soft. And we'll be using just a tiny bit of an accent color. This one happens to be Chili Red. We will need a yarn needle, scissors, a measuring tape, and the crochet hook is an H or a 5mm. So here's a little preview of one of the main panels, and this is the right side. Here's the tail from the foundation chain that indicates the right side, and we are working this way. However, when we wear it and when we put it all together, we turn this over this way so that the ribbing goes this way. So that would be the neckline. The sleeves will go here. The sleeves are worked exactly the same. This is the sleeve panel, as you can see, exactly the same, identical. And it will get folded over this way and then attached to the main panel. Very, very simple process. This tutorial is for a size small. For the detail on how to make larger sizes, go to crazycoolcrochet.com. Or if you go to the white space below the video, open that up, and I'll have the link there to the blog where the written pattern will be found. And of course, my Etsy pattern at my Etsy shop, it's right there, will also have additional detail. Okay, now I needed to recreate this piece of the video, so I'm using a different color yarn. Now, if you want to add length to your sweater, adding 10 chains to your foundation chain will give you about 2 more inches in length, so from the neck to the hem. So for size small, we're going to do 75 single crochets. I'm just going to work a few stitches here to show you how to work it. Then we're going to do a row of single crochets. So we do not count the loop on the hook. There's the first chain. Into the second chain, we start our first single crochet, and then in each chain across. So insert your hook, pull up the loop, pull through both loops, and that's a single crochet. And do that all the way to the end. So if you're working with 75 chains for your foundation chain, you will end up with 74 single crochets. When you get to the end of the row, you will chain 1 and turn. Okay, now this is important. So for the entire panel, for all 4 panels, so you're working 2 main panels for the front and the back, and then 2 panels for the sleeves. So for all of your panels, you are going to do the first stitch and the last stitch a little bit different from the rest. Okay, so it's still a single crochet, but we are working into the first space for the first single crochet, into the actual space, and you will see that you've got 2 strands on the hook there. There's your 2 loops, pull through both. Now we are going to be working with back loop only single crochet. So if you turn this towards you, you'll see that you've been forming a little chain at the top. Looks like a chain. So now we're going to work into the center of each of those chains. Okay, so in other words, you might see like a little V shape or what I call a chain. So you enter your hook in between those two strands. So you're working with the back strand or the back loop. Bring your yarn through, 2 loops on the hook, pull through for a single crochet. Okay, turn it toward you. Go into the top, the center of that little V. You're working with the back loop, pull up your yarn, single crochet. And that is called a back loop single crochet. And this stitch is what forms the ridges or the ribs, which will become much more obvious after another row or 2. So keep doing that until you get to the very last stitch. So here we are. So you've got like that little nub hanging out. But there's that little chain or the little V. Or, of course, keep count, because you should be at 74 with this last one here. Now, rather than go into the top like we have been, we're going to go into the space. So you're going under the V. Exactly the same as you did for that very first stitch. First stitch and last stitch, you work in the space. Okay, so now chain 1 and turn. And there's that space. So your first one will go in the space. And then you'll work into the top or into the back loop. Until you get to the last one. And again, go under the 2 strands, because you're going into the space, and work your single crochet. So let me explain why the first and the last is being worked that way. Okay, so we've been working, or we will be working this way, but we will wear it this way. So you've got your ribs going up and down. So here's the hem. There would be the neckline. Now, the reason we're working that first and last stitch the way we are is so that we end up with this cute little scallop. It's almost like a scallop at the bottom and at the neckline, so that you don't need to add any kind of a separate border. Okay, and I chose to do no kind of a ribbing at the bottom, just to keep the design very simple. So keep working for the 100 rows. Well, if you want this 2 inches longer, add 10 more chains to your foundation chain. And of course, to make it wider, just add more rows. Now for the sleeve, you are going to work it exactly the same, even down to the foundation chain, which you will start with a chain of 75 again. Unless you want a longer sleeve or a shorter sleeve, then adjust that foundation chain. And this time we will work with 56 rows in total, and that comes to about 12 inches. And of course we will eventually fold this over, so this will be about 6 inches wide. Now we're going to seam the shoulders, and to do that you want your 2 panels facing each other. You want the right sides on the inside so that you are working on the wrong side. So you want to determine your neck opening, and that's entirely up to you. I'm using 8 inches here for my opening, and then I marked it with contrasting yarn just so we can track where we stop. Okay, so we're going to start seaming on the edge and then work our way to the stitch marker. So we're going to use the yarn needle with the length of yarn. And a good way to know how much yarn to cut off your skein is to measure 3 times the opening. Okay, so it's 1, 2, 3, cut the yarn, and that'll be plenty. Okay, so start by entering your hook into the cornermost stitch on each panel. Always strive to go under at least 2 or just 2 strands on each side. Now, I like to knot, again, to make it a little stronger. And I'm using what is called a whip stitch. You know, if you're experienced, you can use whatever seaming method you prefer. Okay, so just go under the 2 strands, bring the yarn through, you don't have to tighten it too tight because then it'll buckle. And that's it. So just work your way to your stitch marker and then weave in your tail along here to hide it. Now we'll make the buttons. So you're going to take your yarn, wind it around your finger, your index finger, 12 times. Now you're going to very carefully pull it off your fingers, and you want to maintain that hole without losing your yarn. Grab your hook, pull it through that hole. Hold on to all the strands. Grab your yarn, pull it through. We're going to be working with single crochets into the hole. So first, lock that in with a chain. Okay, now into the hole, work a single crochet. Do about 16 of these. And incorporate the tail as you're working around so you can hide it. Okay, now join with a slip stitch into that first single crochet. Just bring it right through, chain 1. Now leave a good long tail, so we're going to need that for sewing this into the sleeve. Pull it through, and tighten it. There you go. How easy was that? All right, now we're going to place the buttons on the right side of the sleeve and situate them about 2 inches apart. All right, now take your button, and this will be the right side. I think that's the prettier side. Weave that tail, or put the tail through the yarn needle. Determine the center of your sleeve. Bring the needle through the inside of the button. Through the panel. And now back up again. And back down. So now you're just working your way around the inside of that chain. And that's it. Just work your way around. Make sure you're hiding any little tails. And then tie this off on the wrong side. So after you have seamed the shoulders and you did your buttons, attached your buttons, we're going to seam the sleeve to the body. So here I have marked with a yarn needle, the center of the sleeve should line up with the shoulder seam. And then you will simply whip stitch all the way down. Next thing we're going to do is seam the side and the bottom of the sleeve. So again, with the yarn needle using the whip stitch, wrong side up of course, just go ahead and seam all along the bottom here. And here's the completed crochet sweater with the button sleeves. I also added a little touch of red at the top with the border at the neckline. So I wanted just another little pop of color that would balance out the buttons. Now this is super simple. All you do is have the sweater front side facing you, right side facing you. Attach the yarn with the same hook. Attach the yarn, do a chain 1 to lock that in, and then just enter a single crochet in approximately every space, all the way around. When you come back to where you started, do a slip stitch into the first single crochet and tie it off. And that's it. Just that one little row adds a special little pop of color. And if you choose not to do that, that's perfectly okay. It still looks beautiful, especially because you will still have that little scallop on the bottom that you have here on the hem. You will also have that on the neckline. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and this design. Be sure to look around my channel. Down in the white space where it says Crazy Cool Crochet, click on that. It takes you to the home page. At the top, it says videos. Click on that, and it shows you all the different tutorials that I have out there. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your support, and we will see you on the next project.